I was on the copy desk on a newspaper, the Baltimore Sun. I was a terrible copy reader for the reasons that I've disclosed to a horrified American public of millions tonight. So I figured one of the ways you could advance in a newspaper, and I wanted very much to be a film critic, and I wanted that job more than anything, was that if you could, particularly the way the Sun was, this is not anybody's interest level at all, but the Sun was very traditional and intended only to promote people who were from Baltimore, went to private school in Baltimore, then went to either Princeton, Harvard, or Yale. And if you weren't in that profile, they didn't even notice you. If you were in that profile, it didn't matter if you were an idiot. You know, it was just the only thing they could really were confident about judging was the pedigree. So I figured one of the ways to sort of distinguish myself and go from being invisible to visible would be to distinguish myself by publishing books. And, you know, I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I didn't have a powerfully go-getting personality. I just, you know, it was just, I got into this rhythm of writing, not a huge amount, but, you know, 750, 1,000 words every night. I was astounded at how quickly I took to it, how it really worked for me. And in the matter of 7 years, I ground out 2 novels. One was so awful I never showed it to anyone. The second one actually came very close to being published, and I got great, you know, satisfaction and feedback out of that. You know, I'd get polite letters from editors. And then the third one, which is a book called The Master Sniper, still in print, was taken in about 5 minutes by Morrow.
Why do you think that particular book caught on?
Because I understood the mechanisms of storytelling. I had learned from the first 2 books what I couldn't do. And in that book, I learned what I could do. And I suddenly understood, after battering my head against them for years and years, the mechanisms of professional storytelling, how to structure, not how to write, but as Hemingway said, writing is really, he said it and then he disobeyed it. Writing is really, prose is architecture, it's not interior decoration. And I one night after I had my inspiration, I sat down with a bottle of wild turkey and wrote an outline. And when I was done, I knew the outline was really good. It was the best thing I'd ever done. I knew it was really a solid outline that rose for the first time to professional standards. I just knew that. I wasn't sure if I had the talent to bring it off. I wasn't sure, and it's clearly derivative. I mean, it was stolen from a bunch of different sources. I knew the story worked because we'd seen it 200 times before, but not quite like that. And I just knew that there was some momentum, energy, to use your earlier word, in it that there hadn't been in the previous works. And when I had a certain amount of it done, I called an editor who had rejected my second book, but with very kind words, and I asked her if she would like to see it, and she said yes, and I sent it up there. I remember this very vividly. I took a day off from work on Wednesday. I lied. I said I was sick, and I rewrote some of the weak scenes. I cobbled together an outline. I did all kinds of stuff to make it as good as I could make it. In those days, this is 1978, there were 10 mail deliveries a day. And the last mail pickup, and pickups as well.
You mean from the Sun?
Yeah. No, in where I lived in Columbia, but also on the Sun. I mean, the mail system was much more proactive than it is now. And I knew I could get it there if I ran. I was a jogger in those days. So at 11:15, I threw it into an envelope, threw some stamps on it, changed my jogging clothes, and ran the 1.5 miles or whatever to the post office, or to the mailbox, just as the guy was leaving. And here, take this. Oh, you know, feeling so heroic. And then I went back, and because there were so many mail deliveries, I knew she wouldn't get it on Thursday, but I thought she might get it on Friday, last mail delivery. And so I'm waiting particularly as the minutes ticked by. And I knew she would accept it fast, and if I didn't hear the word, it meant no. And she would eventually get around to writing me a Dear Steve letter. And I waited desperately for the phone. Only had one car then, so I was taking the bus to and from work. There was no call, so I went home and I got off the bus, and I'm looking across the parking lot to our little row house, or as we call them in Columbia, townhouse, and I could see my wife in the window. It's just going like that. And I raced over, and she said, "Maria just called. She loves it." And that's how it started.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you didn't really see that you were going to rise to this kind of bestseller status right from the beginning, did you?
Oh, no. I mean, I just was satisfied to get the book published. And then, of course, you're very immature about the meaning of, quote, success. I mean, the book was a main selection of the Book of the Month Club, and it did very, very well for me, and it got me into it. It didn't make me a household name, but it was quite a successful first novel by first novel standards. But what you learn in this business is you have these little spurts of attention when you publish a book. And it is, I have to admit, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's fun being here, and it's fun being... How many people get a chance to talk on national television about their lives? And it's very flattering, and I'm a vain and empty body, so I, of course, love that. But there also comes this moment when, bingo, it's gone. And the first few times, that's an ugly day. And it's really, it's just really depressing. And so I think it was my addiction to the high of publishing a book, more than anything else, I wanted to get back to that sort of the pleasure of the delusion of being important that you get for a few days when you publish a semi-successful novel. And that sort of drove me on. It's so absurd.
Well, no, I don't think so.
But I'm trying to be honest.
I'm glad that you are. I think to write means to be read. I mean, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Even if it's a diary you're writing for yourself. But my question sounded asinine, and I got to thinking I should have rephrased that. What I really meant to ask you was, when you published your first novel, did you intend to embark upon, a career of writing novels, or did you just want to get a book done?
No, I did in fact want to have a career. That was always the idea. I wanted to be a professional novelist. I wanted to reach a state where I could support myself writing fiction. Now, I reached that state many years ago, but because my day job is so pleasant and so much fun, I have actually and also because I don't really understand the finances and the obligations and the responsibilities. I always ask when I meet my peers, how do you do it? I don't get how to set that kind of a life up as a technical matter. But, I mean, there always was an idea of having a career. The other thing is, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about the agony of writing, the despair of writing, the anguish of writing, the nihilism, the existentialism. That's mostly said by writers who are hoping to attract women who would be attracted to that kind of extreme life. But the truth is, it really is a very, very fine and enjoyable life. I mean, it's so much fun to walk into a world and just let it take you where it takes you. And as many writers will say, the characters become alive to you. And when I'm writing a book, it's not like, I'm here and the book's here and I go to the book and I do this and I do that. And all these segments are separated. There's me, there's the process, and there's the product. It's not like that at all. It's one thing, and and the only way I can express it is to say you become the book.